Hello and welcome back to another episode of Around the Horns. Today we have Coach Jim Schloss of Texas baseball, and just doing a little season recap and talking about how things went, what went well, what didn't go well, and just looking back at the season overall. Coach, how y'all been doing?
Been busy. Certainly, the summer is the time period. It's probably the busiest. That and maybe the early fall. Um, it's slow from a baseball standpoint because your players are gone. They're off to summer ball. Some of them are still here working out, but the portal, trying to figure out the budget, roster management. 70-80% of the job is just managing the roster. Nolan Kane does a great job to lead those things for us, but we're all involved, and we got a whole team of people that are constantly scraping things and finding ways to make our team better. And so it's around the clock, around the year deal for the most part.
Yeah, how the speaking of roster management, the House settlement bill finally got signed, is going to be in place. So y'all have a little more clarity, I guess, around roster sizes. There's still some, I guess, uniqueness around the timing of, like, you have to have your roster finalized by December 1st, which to some degree, I guess, is a good thing because you'll be through fall ball for the most part. But how much does kind of that weight off your shoulders of now y'all know what it looks like and kind of the stipulations around that?
Yeah, it's as clear as mud, really. Because what it basically is with the you have the 34-man roster, which has to be set December 1 as of now. But you're also allowed to quote unquote grandfather anybody you signed prior to April 7th from an incoming student athlete standpoint. And then the people on your team who you would deem would have been cut if it were a strict 34-man roster now. So that's very it's ambiguous. I mean, it's very, very up to interpretation. Frankly, what I think it is just another COVID. So you're allowed to, for example, Sam Richardson, who, awesome kid, good player, needs to get at bats in a 34-man roster. Would have been maybe tough for us to find a spot for him. Maybe not. Our biggest issue is the draft is still in July, so we can plan all we want in June, and it all goes awry when you get close to the draft. But a guy like Sammy would be a guy that you would grandfather, which means for the rest of his college career, he will never count towards a roster, which makes him marketable to other schools because they can add him and he doesn't count towards the 34. And then for us, if he would have come back, he wouldn't have counted towards ours. So you're still going to have, at some schools, you're still going to have some, I don't know if it's going to be bloated rosters, but it's going to be expanded rosters. And some of those things are really good. For example, a guy like Cody Howard, who we love, he needs 9 hours to graduate, 3 in the summer, 6 in the fall. So is he going to continue to improve as a pitcher? I think he will. Would he, if the roster was a strict 34, would he be a guy that squeezes in there? Maybe. Depends on the draft. But the fact that we can have a little flexibility with this grandfathering thing, that helps some schools out. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. The draft is going to dictate it. There's still going to be movement off of our team onto our team for the rest of the summer because things are constantly fluid.
Yeah. How does the revenue sharing kind of impact Texas? I know that CDC had the town hall a couple months back now, and he kind of laid out his grand vision for what he wants to do. But, I understand that Texas baseball maybe not getting necessarily the same amount as some of the other sports. But how does that all work out and factor into everything?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one thing is, Texas is going to do as many scholarships as we can afford to do this year. Still working through that. And part of the settlement for this year is that if you do significantly increase scholarships, then you can knock $2.5 million off of the cap that what the university has to pay. which I think there was a time that the athletic directors thought that most schools would do that. And then in reality, what a lot of them did is, especially in the Big Ten in baseball and other sports, other schools in the SEC in baseball said, you know what, we're not going to do 34 scholarships. We're going to do less than that, and we'll make it up with a little bit of rev share. So I think each school is free to do what they want. I don't know if we'll see much, if any, of that rev share this year, but I believe next year the athletic directors are pushing to get that $2.5 million removed, so that $2.5 million can be spent in rev share on top of the scholarships, if you're following what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
I think the challenge is for every school is you have to choose what you're going to invest in. Certainly Texas is going to be invested in baseball, but every penny you would give baseball, or every penny you would give volleyball, women's volleyball, that's one penny less you're going to maybe give Coach Sark. And we all know what drives the bus around here, and which I'm the biggest college football fan there is. So, and when do you put your head football coach at even a penny less advantage relative to the other massive, the Ohio States and Michigans and Georgias that you're competing with for a national title? So I understand that. And then if you're at another school who maybe is historically a middle of the pack college football program, maybe their ceiling is the middle of the pack. Well, maybe if you're the AD at one of those schools, you say, you know what, we can afford to take X amount of dollars off and give it to baseball, because we're probably capped out of what we can do in football, barring a miracle run. And then you have the schools with the great basketball, like Texas. I mean, Texas trying to give Coach Miller every opportunity, trying to give Coach Schaefer every opportunity to be successful. And so Texas is kind of its own worst enemy, because
Yeah.
we just won our fourth Directors Cup in 5 years.
Yeah.
So you want to maintain that level of excellence, but when you're comparing that to your competition across the board, that's a tough thing for Chris Del Conte to balance. And so we're all trying to figure out what that's going to look like.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I was reading an article about you mentioned basketball schools like Kentucky as an example. There's been a lot of infighting, how do we support our basketball team and our football team, because they want to kind of take that next step in the SEC in football. And I'm sitting here thinking, I was like, man, y'all have had a really good run under Coach Mignone, and like he's going to continue developing those kids out of the transfer portal and the kids that get in school. I was like, y'all might have better success on baseball than football. So yeah, it's interesting how all that works out. And yeah, I don't envy CDC when he has to make some of those decisions on how he supports, each one of the coaches and programs. Because you're right, Texas is very unique in the fact that they are good in pretty much every single sport. I mean, they're competitive and competing for championships. So
yeah, it's definitely a challenge, and you're going to have to look at return on investment. I mean, you mentioned, I think, were you talking about Kentucky baseball?
yeah.
They've done a phenomenal job, but they're not making any money. So, certainly, I mean, they may be cutting their losses but it's still not going to be a revenue generating sport. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a challenge for the athletic director there. And you have a football coach and Coach Stoops that's, wants to win. Every coach wants to win. We all know that these jobs are fragile, and if you don't win, there's going to be somebody else coaching. And your job, or my job as the baseball coach, is to go in and fight for everything for the baseball program. And you can imagine the successful coaches that we have at Texas in every sport, they're all doing the same fight, the Texas fight with with Chris and the administration. So, I mean, we have the best AD in the country. I have full confidence he'll figure it out, but it does create different challenges when you're going through the recruiting process, and even at a place like Texas, there are some schools that have, or they allocate resources differently, which makes it more challenging for us.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, I don't know how much you've been watching the College World Series. Like I said, I know y'all have been crazy busy, transfer portal season and summer circuit for, underclassmen, just trying to pay attention to everything going on. But it's LSU and the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina, which is, a great story. I remember watching them back in 2016, and it was like, how the heck did they get there? But um, I think you and I had talked maybe 3 weeks ago or so, and you said, hey, 14 losses on the season, and you start adding them up, and it's like, well, only 3 of those or 4 of those are by 1 run each, and then there's 4 extra innings games, and just looking back at the season overall, I remember at the very beginning you said we'd love to get to 15 wins. That kind of became not an ongoing joke, but like the reality of playing in the SEC. But do y'all feel like y'all just you well played above your average, or do you feel like it was just that kind of a special team because you mentioned the elite human beings on this team that played for you in 2025? How do you, I guess, rank the season and how it went?
Well, for me personally, I think our staff and the players did an awesome job. Awesome to go 44-14, win the SEC, be a national seed, host a regional. Given where we were, not even this time last year. This time last year, none of us except for Tulo and a couple other people on the staff, we weren't even here. So put together a roster, put together a culture, put together a team, the buy-in from the team, and not just the older players, but everybody. Like the buy-in was incredible. If we can get that every year moving forward, then I think the future is going to be great. The regular season, I thought it went well. We started off outstanding. Felt like we had a good offense. Felt like our pitching was, we were kind of finding our way. Think about the first game of the season. I don't even know if Volantis pitched in that game, or did he? Yeah, I don't even. I mean, in the Louisville game, I know Mercer is the one we came in to get the last few outs. He was rolling up 97s and 98s, and we lose on a walk-off single. And by the end of the season, he's not even available. So seasons evolve. We had all the injuries. We weren't a team that could afford much to have injuries to our best players, but somehow we overcame it. We pitched outstanding. We led the SEC in ERA. I think we were still a top 5 or 6 team in the country in terms of earned run average. So the regular season I thought was outstanding. Talk about the 14 losses. I think 13 of them were to teams that were either in a regional, super regional, or Omaha. Yeah. So the regular season was awesome. I mean, we got right to where we want to be, hosting a regional at Dish Falk, and then we just, we got outplayed. Not going to use, injuries as an excuse, but certainly made it more challenging to be creative. And we knew, even when we were 19-2, like if you go back and look at the scores of the games, how did we win the games? 6-2, 5-3, 7-4. It wasn't a big offensive club, whether it be because of injury or just anything. By the end of the year, I was excited about what we could be with Jonah and Max coming back and that kind of stuff. But we just never really could recover losing Spencer. And then again, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't win a regional. I mean, you're playing at home. You're up 6-1 in the winner's bracket game. You got to find a way to finish that game. I mean, you just have to. And we had the right guys rested in the bullpen. But you look across the country and look who's in Omaha and look who's playing. Whether you want to say Murray State or whether you want to say UCLA, I think they won 20 games last year.
Yeah,
something like that. You mentioned Coastal Carolina, like they're good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, I have PTSD about Coastal Carolina because when I was at TCU, we were the ones that were in the winner's bracket driver's seat
in 2016. Yeah,
we just had to win one game to get to the championship round, and then would have played an Arizona team that was solid, but it was certainly they were more of a hot team than they were of a team that had an incredible regular season. But everybody forgets. I think I saw the graphic yesterday. I mean, Coastal won 55 games that year, and where are they at 56 now? Almost 60.
Yeah, they haven't lost since April. I mean, they've just
27 straight games.
Insane.
So,
yeah.
So they're good, and so I think baseball is the ultimate equalizer sport, and I always go back. What do people deem a great season? Is it the season we had, and you lose in a regional or a super regional or maybe even Omaha, or is it a team that kind of middles their way through it, makes a regional, and then plays great at the end? I know we would all take Omaha, and we would all take a national championship. I just believe that we didn't have a bad season because we didn't make it to Omaha. Now, I'm as sick to my stomach. Can't hardly watch it, but I do watch almost every pitch because I am a college baseball fan too. It's like a train wreck. You can't turn it. You can't look away. But yeah, we're moving on, and we're trying to maximize our time. The fact that we're not playing by putting together a great roster for next year, so we're in the depths of that.
Yeah, coming into fall, you mentioned from a pitching standpoint, y'all really didn't know where y'all were going to be. I mean, there was a lot of who's going to pitch for us. There's injuries coming into the fall. Guys didn't pitch at all during the fall that had been major contributors the year before. And then you had on the other side of the coin, your lineup was pretty much set except for one or two positions that, there's obviously battles during the fall, but it was like, hey, this guy almost assuredly is going to be our second baseman. This guy's almost assuredly going to be catcher, shortstop, right field. Like there was a lot of positions that were really kind of concreted in. Kind of you flip the script now going into this summer. How does that affect the way that you maybe want to build your team? Obviously, you got to go recruit hitters, but did you see anything from the guys that are returning that you say, okay, we know that we have this building block, we can build off of that, and there's components there that we know that we can be successful again?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a pitching staff standpoint, we feel really good about the guys that are coming back. I don't know if they've made public announcements just yet, but they're close. I think we're going to return a really good core group of the pitching staff, which is a great spot to start. We're certainly going to, we have the Major League Draft is going to affect us more than likely with Max Ballou and Jalen, a guy like Saunier, potentially, and Galvan. So, but in terms of the position player returners, we feel great about Adrian Rodriguez, feel great about Mendoza, feel great about Jonah, assuming he stays healthy and can get back to us in the spring. I thought Casey Borba really made a great push at the end of the year. Tommy Farmer, Will Gasparino, those guys were solid, but they have to get better, And I think our goal is to raise the floor, I guess you'd call it, or the ceiling, whichever one you want to call it, but just increase the overall talent level of the program. And you do that through the high school and then the recruiting and then the transfer portal. And so that's what we're doing right now, is to increase that and make it competitive. We're really focused on multi-positional players, guys that can do a lot of different things, because on a 34-man roster, you need guys that can do a lot of different things, that can play in the infield, that can play in the outfield. I think Jalen played every inning of every game at shortstop, right? And so that's a tough way to live, whether it be him getting hurt or him maybe just needing a day off or maybe just having 3 innings off. So Adrian, we're super excited about Adrian and what he's doing this summer. Really, really working hard on his body and his movement at a private facility up in the Metroplex. I think he's capable of doing a lot of things for us in the infield, maybe even competing at shortstop. Certainly going to be competitive at third base. Would like to see him back, on that side of the field if possible. But we're also going to have to go sign a shortstop, somebody that can play shortstop. So we've gotten some good pieces. I don't think we've signed them yet, so I don't think I can talk about them just yet.
Yeah.
But we do want, the day I took the job at Texas, we had one left-handed hitter in the whole program. Like, think about that for a second. That's just complete insanity for any program, but especially a place like Texas. So we're trying to get left-handed hitters, switch hitters, guys that provide lineup balance, the things that most of the really good teams have. And so we know what it's supposed to look like, obviously, from the places that we've been and from what Texas has been in the past. So I feel very confident about that. The 2025 class, position player wise, it's going to get nicked up pretty good in the draft between more than likely Casey Cunningham and Gavin Fine. But so we're going to, I'd love to have those guys come to school, but, their opportunities are looking pretty good right now. The young pitchers we're super excited about. I think we're in good spots with those guys, but as you know, it only takes one team. But it's going to be a year that we're heavy in the transfer portal and basically just trying hold down the fort so we can get the 25 class, and then the 26 class is as talented of a group as I've ever been a part of recruiting. Will the draft hit that? Sure, but if we can just get 50 to 60% of that class on campus, then we can start to turn the tide a little bit on the base level talent of the freshman and sophomore classes. And that way you go into the portal and you just cherry pick it here and there versus, having to sign 4 or 5 position players or something. That's crazy. Georgia has to replace an entire lineup.
I think they have 11 or 14 kids at this point committed.
They have to. They only had one player on the whole team, one player on the whole lineup, I should say. That was Trey Phelps. That was homegrown. Everybody else in the whole lineup. So imagine, and I think he's draft eligible. But imagine having to replace 8 or 9. I mean, you're literally your whole lineup. And the problem with doing that in the portal is then you maybe have to do it again the following year. And so at what point do you cycle through it? And we're all at schools where no one wants to have a coach come on and say, you know what, we're just going to ride it out with 60% freshmen this year and take our lumps. I mean, that's not what Texas fans or Georgia fans or any fan wants to hear. So we're trying to find a mesh point, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
To where we hold on to the right guys. We hopefully get the freshmen like a Rodriguez, like a Jonah that can compete in the SEC, and then gradually turn the tide to where we have a good base level of talent every year to build upon.
Yeah. So, you talked about a guy like Adrian Rodriguez. How important is it that during his freshman year, one, obviously he was very productive, but he was able to play multiple positions with a 34-man roster. I feel like he opens a lot of doors for you to be able to move guys around and, give the guy a day off or an inning off, or, just even give different looks to different teams. How important is that for him?
It's huge. It's huge. I mean, he has personal goals too. He wants to, prove he can play different position. I mean, left side of the infield, to be honest with you, and he can. I mean, I don't put anything past Adrian Rodriguez. He's a baseball player, and I think his what young players sometimes don't understand is how much they're proving their value by being a guy that can play anywhere on the field. Because when you get to professional baseball and it's a roster of 25 or 27 or whatever, whether it be in the minor leagues or in the major leagues, the fact that you're capable of doing all those things even makes you more valuable. And then you throw in the fact that if he's healthy, he's a switch hitter. Wow, what lineup flexibility he would give his manager in professional baseball the same way he gives us. So, but yeah, we're going to give him every opportunity to play the positions that he would like to play, and then we'll see how it plays out as what's best for the team, and also take into account his personal goals. But Adrian can do a lot of things on the field.
Yeah. And then another guy, I know you're a huge football fan, but are you personally excited to see Jonah out on the field this fall, with the Texas football team?
I am. I'm a big fan of football, college football, Texas football, and even a bigger fan of Jonah Williams. So I'm looking forward to getting through this portal time, maybe get into once we get to August, it'll settle down a little bit, and I'm going to be sneaking over there to watch practice and watch him do his thing. So I miss him. I miss having him around the the field. He's got elite energy. He brings confidence that you don't find among players a lot these days. A lot of these days that they have fake confidence. They're not super sure of themselves. And Jonah, I mean, he has insecurities like every other human being, but at the same time, he's able to overcome them. And so, what a joy to coach. Just want to wrap him in bubble wrap when he's out there, and just hoping he makes it back to us.
Absolutely. And I guess the last question I had for you was, last year was a very unique situation. Y'all took over very, very late in the process. But there was holes to fill. And so how different is your pitch to the transfer portalees that y'all are talking to this year, having won the SEC, having shown like, hey, we're going to have instant success, and we're not here just to play the ball game. We're here to win. How different has that resonated with players as y'all are looking at adding talent to the squad?
Yeah, it's significantly different. I mean, the further you get away from the drama that the job change was last year, the further you get away from that stuff, and then just the fact that we can sell what the season was, the development, obviously competing in the SEC at a super high level, and then obviously all the great things that the tradition of Texas baseball, the academics, all of the normal stuff.
Yeah.
The challenge in the portal is for us, and really was the same at the other schools that I've coached, is most of the really elite players in the country that go in the portal for some reason this year, especially, are on the East Coast.
Yeah.
There aren't that many great. There's not any great players from DBU going in the portal because DBU has a great program and guys aren't looking to leave. Or, I mean, I don't want to name other programs, but there's not a lot of movement in our state, and there's certainly not a lot of movement even on the West Coast this year. It's not a ton. Most of the guys that are, when you look in the portal and you see all the big names, they're all from the East Coast, so they're in the Carolinas, or they're in the Southeast or in the Northeast, and so for us, I mean, Texas is certainly a place they're interested in. The challenge is convincing them to fly over or drive past the other schools who also have good programs, who also have resources to get players, and so that's been one of our biggest challenges is just that. And so if you look at some of the guys we've gotten committed to this point, they're from areas of the country that we don't normally get players from. So hopefully it's not so much pipeline. It'll just create more kids in the future that if we have to go to that side of the country, we'll have a better chance to get them. But it is a huge challenge. I mean, there's no, you look at a team like TCU that had an awesome season, had a great young team. I think they have like the entire team back, and they invest in baseball at TCU as well. So those kids aren't going anywhere, as they shouldn't. They're at a great spot. So you understand what I'm saying? I mean, it's just,
Yeah,
it's not as easy as saying, oh, we're Texas, we're going to go hop in the portal and see what we can get. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of schools with a lot of resources that are fishing in the very same little pond. Like it's a very small pond, and there's a lot of bait in the water, and so it's a big challenge. But we'll get through it, and we'll get the guys we're supposed to get, and then we plug them in our system. I believe in our coaches. I believe that we're going to get the players that want to be here, and then we're going to coach them up, and we're going to make them better. And we have a proven history of doing that. I mean, you look at what Ethan Mendoza became this past year. You look at what Luke Harrison, even though he's, again, I considered everybody a transfer. Luke Harrison was 10 innings with a 10 ERA last year.
Yeah.
And he had the third best ERA among starters, I think, in the SEC.
In the SEC, yeah.
And so I think, we put all that up on a board and show these kids, like, you're not just a plug and play player. You're going to come here and get better. You're going to get stronger. You're going to be in our system, our processes, whether it be as a pitcher or position player, and you're going to get better. So, the longer we're here, and I'm hoping to be here for a very long time, the more that we'll prove that, and we'll it'll be less of a sales job and more of a let's go, man. You're coming to Texas to get better. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all the guys I've talked to have, I've talked to a number of them. It's not every single time that they're like, yeah, Texas is my dream school. Even some of the 26 class or 25 class, the guys that resonate are like, oh man, I want to go pitch for Coach Max. I want to go play for Coach Schloss and Coach Kane because I have that relationship. Or Tulo, like you don't get a better resource than a Tulowitzki just coaching you up on the infield every day. I mean, it's really special stuff. And so yeah, the guys I've talked to, it's a different, I guess, resonation with those guys that I've heard from in the past, where it's not always been about the coaches. It's more been like, yeah, why would I not choose Texas? And now it's like, yeah, Texas is great, but the staff there is unbelievable. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think no disrespect to the past, but just college baseball in the last 3 or 4 years post COVID is, I mean, it's crazy. It's just how many schools are invested at the highest level, especially in the SEC. Every great player in the country that's not in the SEC, if they're remotely unhappy wherever they are, they want to play in the SEC. But we also have limited spots, and those spots are going to get more limited as the grandfathering guys pass through. So it'll eventually be that 34-ish roster. So you have to prove yourself. You can't rest on the tradition of the program. The tradition of the program helps, but I mean, sometimes we have to explain who Roger Clemens is to these guys, which is crazy to me. But
Yeah.
the further we get away from that, in those days, then the more, what have you done for me lately, and what are you capable of doing for me now? But that's what I think our strength is. I mean, I know what our strength is. We've proven that at the places we've been, that guys come here and wherever we are, and they get better. They get better. It's proven, and they just have to trust it.
Cool. Like I said, I know y'all are busy, so I'll let you go. I appreciate the time. Great catching up and chatting some baseball with you, and look forward to the rest of the summer and seeing how the roster starts coming together. And certainly all eyes will turn on to the Major League Draft there in July. I've been watching some of the combine the last couple of days, and yeah, Cunningham and Fine have definitely not hurt their chances of getting drafted very high. So
yeah, that's part of it. If those guys decide it's what they want to do, we'll wish them well and move on to the next thing. But yeah, the summer, this is the time that dictates the rest of the year. So Longhorn fans can rest assured that we are. It's around the clock. It's 18 hours a day. Honestly, it's the busiest time of year. The season is the second slowest time of year. November and December is pretty slow, but the season is actually pretty slow relative to what we're going through right now. So we'll get there. It's just, it's like I was telling someone yesterday. It's like swimming in mud, man. You're going to get there, but it's tough and it takes a while.
Yeah. Well, have a great one, Coach. And looking forward to seeing you all on the field in the fall. So
yeah, everybody out there have a great summer.
All right, hook 'em.